Welcome back to Gun Tote Minnesotan. Today I have a product sent out to the channel by BLACKHOUND Optics. This is their 5-25 from their Evolve series, and it is a first focal plane in a mil configuration. Right off the bat, I'm going to give you a few of the specs, and then we'll get into some actual use and shooting here. So the magnification is 5 times magnification range. It is a 5-25. It's got a 56mm objective. The eye relief is 3.5 inches, right around there. It is a first focal plane. Field of view is 21.2 feet down to 4.2 feet at full magnification at 100 yards. Tube size is 34mm. The turret style is an exposed style turret. Click value is 1/10 mil. Travel per revolution is 10 mils. Elevation adjustments, the full range would be 25 mils, but there is a stopper in there. Wind adjustment is 18 mils. Parallax is 20 yards to infinity. Length is 15.75 inches. Weight is 2.4 pounds. And the battery type is a CR2032 lithium battery for that illumination. And here's a little bit of shooting on my 308 at 600 yards, just doing a little tank trap work here with the 5-25 from BLACKHOUND. Five hits. All right, now that I got it all zeroed up, the zeroing process or the resetting process for these turrets is real straightforward. I'm just going to loosen up those Allens. Don't have to take them all the way out, guys, just loose enough. And then you're going to lift up on that turret. A little bit of suction to keep it on there. Got your O-rings in there that keep it nice and tight and fairly water resistant. And then I'm going to set it back on the zero, and it does line up exactly on that zero right there. Perfect. And I'm going to tighten that down again, just snug enough to engage. Doesn't have to be crazy tight. In fact, it shouldn't be crazy tight. That's how you damage things or strip out your Allens. There's the zero. That stops it. That's the zero stop. You can go 2/10 down from zero. I really like that because of the temperature differences I deal with in Minnesota pretty much constantly. If it's going to be 60 today when I'm zeroing, but maybe on the competition day, I actually need to go 2/10 down because it's 85 or very humid, whatever atmospherics you're dealing with. Being able to go 2/10 lower is really nice, especially I'll say in NRL 22. If you have a 50-yard zero, you know that there are stages when you're getting a little bit closer. It's nice to be able to dial 2/10 low. And so I think that's an awesome design feature. And with that installed, I have, let's see, there's 10 and 17. I have right about, right to 17 mils with a 308 gets me well past 1,000 yards. All right, so here's an important clarification on something. You'll notice that the number on there says 25 yards, and then you have these lines with growing thickness, and so there's some increments there to go up to infinity. The knob itself, first of all, is very smooth. I like it a lot. In fact, every dial and knob on this one is very smooth and does not require a lot of force. There's not a lot of resistance behind that. It's very, very smooth. It's in fact more smooth than a lot of other optics that I've tried in this price point. I just want to advertise that the website says 20 yards to infinity at the time of making this video. I have tested this out, and I'm going to say it is truly a 25-yard parallax, which I'm very happy with. You know, that allows me some grace there with NRL 22 and the nearest targets that you'll ever shoot, which is 25 yards. But it's not a 20-yard parallax, so I just want to correct that. If you've seen that on the website, that would be inaccurate compared to what I've seen in the real world. When I've tested it out, the nearest that I can get that real clear image without parallax error is 25 yards. The dial itself has some knurling on it, as well as the illumination. I'm just going to talk about illumination very briefly. That knob requires a little bit more effort, but it's not bad. It's clicky, it's tactile, runs on a standard battery. I'm happy with that. It's not daylight bright, guys, and that's fine. It's really not that big of a deal to me at all. But I would say level 6 is for, dusk, somewhere around dusk when there's still some sunlight out. Might have a little bit of glare, but you want to use that illumination. And I would say at, about sundown, like when you're deer hunting, right before the sun goes down, and you're getting that last, 15, 20 minutes of ambient light, I would say setting 3 to 4 was really, really good for around that time frame. And so that's an idea of how the illumination works, but no complaints about it unless you need daylight bright. Moving on to the magnification assist and ring, I think that this is one of the better designs in optics right now, and the fact that this one is so incredibly smooth makes me very happy. Now I'm going to say that this ring is actually smoother than the Emerge series optic that I have. I think the Emerge, that model, it could just be the individual one that I have, it's just a little bit more firm. You have to be a little bit more intentional on the ring. But this one, it's just super buttery smooth, and 5 times magnification on this is excellent. One thing I'm showing you in the video here is that you do have to be careful. If you have a big extended bolt knob like I do on the Savage Model 10, I actually have to run it at level 6 in order to use that Mag Assist bump. There's a little bit of pyramiding and texture on that. It's really nice, but it does get in the way at 5 power. It is removable, but I'd rather just leave it on because I really like it. Even though it's a smooth mag ring and it has dual textures, a different one on the top as on the bottom, it's very cool, it's unique, it's very smooth. I just like using that little knob, and if I'm in a competition, I'm probably going to go between 10 and 15 power relatively quick, getting that field of view. And this is going to give me no issues at all. It's an appropriate magnification range for the glass. All right, let's take a listen to the turrets and just how they sound, and I'll talk to you a little bit about how they feel. So my opinion is that the turrets themselves, they feel fantastic. They are tactile enough. I can hear them well enough. Maybe not as loud as some other optics out there, but these are reliable. I think they feel great. They sound great. I don't have trouble reaching up and getting at them, and they're low profile enough that they really don't obstruct your field of view, especially in a hunting scenario. Another thing that's in the package here, which I'll talk about in a second, is this honeycomb. They call it their scope hood, but it's like a honeycomb, kill flash, sunshade, that combination. Threads in really nice. It's awesome to get an optic that can be had at these price points with sunshades and rings and all the things they throw in their package. It's awesome. But this one is a well-designed concept. It does actually kill flash, which if you're interested in that, that's really cool. And it also helps with that little bit of sheen I might get off the barrel at different angles of shooting, different scenarios. You might have a little sun in a less optimum hunting condition, might have the sun coming right at you to some degree, and then you're going to need a little bit of protection from that glare coming right in to the scope. And so I appreciated that. Most of the time when I'm shooting, it's either early morning or late in the afternoon or evening like this, and so the sun is just barely glaring into the scope a little bit. I didn't have much issue with scope glare, but that kill flash and scope hood does actually reduce that amount. So a friend and I were practicing for an upcoming PRS match that's going to be 600 and 800 yards, and we were talking about using 308s for this, which is kind of an exciting idea. It's a little old school, but here's 830 yards off the tripod. Can still hear that one better though. We're shooting on full-size IDPAs. It's not a tiny target, but actually off the tripod there is some skill set that is needed. And actually I was using 168 grainers, not 175 right here, and so a little bit of a different load for me than I usually use. Had no issue hitting that target at all. Here's a little bit more PRS practice at 600 yards, and that center dot reticle, guys, is where it's at. It makes it so easy to hold on relatively small targets. Making those hits, I would say, pretty much routine with ease with this optic. Now, I like to shoot heavier mag than a lot of people, but I was probably right around 14 power when I was shooting this particular stage right here for fun, doing a little practice. And at 14 power, I can easily see the reticle and my target. Going 5 for 5 here off the tank trap. And again, that's, it's 600, a little over 600 yards. I'm very happy with that. I'm a beginner. I don't claim to be an expert, but as a beginner, I love this reticle and the center dot size. It's easy to make out that target and the reticle itself standing out against it. Reticle contrast is obviously very important when you're dealing with targets that might get slammed a whole lot during a competition. They start to turn gray or black, and you could lose a small dot very easily unless you're on high magnification. This one, I didn't have that issue. Let's talk about what's inside the box. All right, inside your Evolve Series optic comes in this nice box with a magnetic closure like that, and inside you're going to see the checklist. So there is a quality control checklist, and they have their promise and loyalty statement there at the top. Really cool, and this matters, guys. This is a great thing to have inside of optics nowadays, that they're taking the time, they're making sure it is what they want to send to you, and they're keeping their brand untainted from complaints and issues that would frustrate you as a customer. So I appreciate seeing that. And then inside, you're gonna get a few things like your product manual. This is useful. It's a very good manual. I've looked through each one a little bit, and I think they cover everything you're gonna need. There's a lens cloth inside, and a couple things you might wanna check that out and not miss. Then you're gonna have your sunshade. Now, I don't usually use sunshades. This one's pretty cool. This one comes with a honeycomb inside, and I do use it on the 3-24 from time to time from the next series up. That one is from the Emerge series. It's pretty cool, but it comes with that. It's a fantastic throw in on top. Then you're going to get some bubble levels like this for mounting your optic. Get 2 of those, and then you're going to get rings. And these rings, I'm not actually using them in this review because I'm using some rings from Sunway Photo, but these BLACKHOUND rings are pretty decent, and they're definitely more than enough to get you started. I've actually left them on rifles and found them to hold 0. Did not have issues with the contours or the milling of the rings. I think they're done well enough. They're probably not as fancy as some other ones, but you have to recognize they're throwing these in practically for free. It's really not represented in the cost of the optic. So I think that's a fantastic value, that you get everything you need here to lock it on your gun and go shoot. Now, I have reviewed the 3-18 from the Evolve series, and then also the 3-24 power from BLACKHOUND in the Emerge series. In the Emerge series is the Japanese glass. The BLACKHOUND 5-25 from today has the Chinese glass. I thought it would be just beneficial to let you know a couple of the immediate or obvious differences that I noticed when looking through these 2 optics. I will say I really like both of them. The Emerge is on one of my favorite go-to guns, like one of my range toys. It's that Savage Model 12 FV there, and it shoots lights out. Love the optic, but I thought it would be interesting to compare the 2 in case you're maybe wondering if you should fork up a little more money or save some. Starting off looking at the Emerge 3-24. This is a Japanese piece of glass, and just checking out field of view, color, contrast. Kind of been looking at the depth of field between the 2 of these. This goes to 24, the other one goes to 25. And this is 3-24, the other one is 5-25. I'm just doing a little comparison here. Now, I do like the reticle better for sure in the 5-25. I just prefer dot style reticles. Maybe unless I'm hunting. This could have some application in hunting. It's a simple Christmas tree, but the cross lines where they intersect are just a little bit thicker. I like the numerical pattern, the way they have that up. It's different than the other reticle, which is in the 5-25. But they're mill reticles, and I'm not going to complain too much. Most qualified shooters can make them work, but this is a very good piece of glass, and it's very clear. Contrast is really good. It's sharp. I can really tell when I'm working the parallax exactly when it's tight. It's just a very clear image. And the extreme edges, it's a nice piece of glass. It is one of the best pieces of glass I have. If you didn't watch the series, I recently did a comparison against a $2,300 Optic, and I thought the glass in this was really impressive, which is why it's on this rifle right here. I love to shoot this one, but it's on this. The Emerge is, you know, probably, I think you can get them on sale right now for a little over $1,000, but the 5-25 has a lot of things going for it, and the glass is still pretty good. Let's talk about that. All right, taking a look at the exact same spot on 25 power now with the 5-25. You know, it's still a really good image. There's a slight amount of chromatic aberration. That's not like new, and that's not really surprising. Most scopes are going to have some chromatic aberration. I just see a little fringing around the edges of that target down there. It's not too bad. There's a slight amount of mirage as well, and that doesn't help the image. Comparatively, can I tell the difference? Yeah, there's a difference, guys. You won't be able to tell the difference between the Emerge and this, but you have to consider there's a significant price difference. And when these both go on sale, the Emerge is pretty darn affordable, but this is really affordable. BLACKHOUND has incredibly good deals. They are like, I don't know, they're probably one of the best deals in the industry. They don't always sell it like the MSRP levels. They're usually knocked down a little bit, but then when they go on sale, I'm not going to say the amounts because it might change with time and people complain, but I've been listing links and they've been selling out because they're really, really good deals. And this glass is probably a little bit better. I think it's a little bit better than some of the competition for 5-25s in its price point. I think it's a little bit better. The reason I think that, which is important, specifically, I think it's been BLACKHOUND's way since the beginning. I think they've focused on glass and good clarity. Even their Gen 1 model, which I was not interested in, of their first line of scopes, had pretty good glass comparatively to other competitors in the market at that price range. And this one feels similar. It feels like, you know, first of all, I'm going to say I really dig the reticle. I really like that style. I like the dot size. There's so much good I have to say about it. I'm a big fan of the reticle, and I shoot it well. But if a reticle is placed in bad glass, it doesn't help a lot. The edges are not too bad. When let's do this. Go towards the edge. Yeah, when I go towards the edge, I feel like it's very usable. You know, it's got 10 mils of holdover. And if I'm on what power? Let's see, I'm on about 17 power. No. Yeah, well, okay. 17, 18 power. I'm on 17 or 18 power. I can still see all 10 mils. And if I was doing holdovers, the glass is certainly clear enough to use that 10 mils of holdover. And I just don't see a bunch of distortion. The center of the glass is definitely a better image, but that's going to be common in optics like this. Give me a second here. Okay, let's do that. And when I run out to the extremes, you know what? There's really not much of the narrowing of the image. Sometimes running it to the very edges, which I've experienced in much higher dollar optics, it reduces the image, kind of cuts off, and it's almost like scope shadow. I'm not exactly sure how to describe it, but it cuts off some of the image, and I assume the rector tube assembly just can't travel that far by, well, providing a full image. And there's very minimal amounts in here. It's pretty good. The image is still nice. I would definitely use it going all the way up to those 17 mils. Doesn't look bad. One thing I'll throw out there is I do feel like, let's see, I feel like the eye box is just slightly touchy at 25 power. Just going back and forth here a little bit. It's slightly touchy. It doesn't bother me too much. I'm not going to complain about it. If it's enough that I complain, then it's really going to be bad. Most optics are kind of similar, especially at these price points. Yeah, it's not too bad. It's just a little touchy. And even backing it off, I went down to 20 power, and it's noticeable. It's just on the extreme on 5 power. When I go down to, so on 25 power, a little touchy there. When I go to 5 power, great field of view. Image is not like fishbowl. It looks pretty good. Let's see. and the eye box is not terribly touchy. I think they did a pretty good job on the low end power on this one. And I'll just say again, the reticle is very usable. Very, very usable. I've shot BLACKHOUND Evolve 3 to 18 on this rifle using 3 power at 1,000 yards, making hits, almost routine hits at 5 power. And then I can still make out the reticle at 3 power on a white target. But here on 5 power, absolutely. It's usable. At a couple hundred yards looking at white targets, I absolutely could use that. Would I? No, I would probably bump up the magnification to like 8 or 9 as a minimum. Very, very functional reticle. Very clear, great size of the stadia or the holdovers themselves. And the design just really draws my eye. I like a little bit bigger dot sometimes. I'm finicky, I go back and forth, but this bigger dot, I do shoot it really well. Yep, color is good, contrast is good. It's not a bad image at all. It certainly seems to hit a bit above the other glass at a similar price point. That's just my opinion and looking through it for the last, few days. All right, so no, this is not looking through the scope. This is actually using my spotter, and I have a very affordable spotter. It's something I actually need to upgrade on the channel. So if there's anybody watching this, any of the manufacturers I work with, please send me a spotter because I need better glass to show my hits on steel. But here's at 1,030 yards using the 5 to 25. And I love that delay. Man, it never gets old. It shot a really nice group there. I think it was probably, 12 inches, something like that. And I was really just messing around here. But at 1,030 yards, absolutely could make out a clear image. Didn't need to shoot it on high power at all. I think like the last 4 hits were all down there at like 7 inches, 10 inches, something like that. Right around 1 MOA, maybe a little under that. And dialed up a little bit, threw a couple a little higher on the body here. Very easy to make out the hits from my scope even. It was warm enough that there was some mirage to deal with. I do remember backing off magnification a little bit here just because mirage is something that affects high dollar scopes, low dollar scopes, Japanese, German glass, Chinese glass, all the same. You have to deal with that. But a really great image, and yes, you can shoot it at 1,000 yards. No issues. Here's a little shooting at, this was 200 yards. I was just doing a little PRS practice off a real rickety target frame. I thought, hey, that's something to really learn a little bit of my fundamentals with and how to load into a prop on a stage. Getting ready, again, for PRS practice. That's going to be the primary way that I practice. Impact. 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 That was a miss. Impact. That's pretty shaky. This thing is not sturdy at all, but that was a really good test, and I'm loving that reticle. The center dot size, guys, that's where it's at. All right, so honestly, one of those was a glance, and it really bothered me. I wanted to have 5 clean hits. I'm gonna try again. It's super windy. It's blowing me around. This is a little shaky, but I shouldn't be missing an 8-inch target at 200 yards right now. Even with the plinking ammo, I'm just using 147 grain. I think it's Reman actually from Freedom Munitions. Shoots decently well. It's not, match ammo, but I shouldn't be missing that target down there. That's all me and trigger pull. And so the optic's doing great. Reticle is fantastic. I just need to practice this again for my own pride or dignity, whatever one it is. So I'm going to give it 5 more on this same thing. I'll do 3 on the bottom and then 2 on top on the 8-incher. And hopefully I go at least 4 for 5 and good solid center punches on those plates. Impact. Did not see. Impact. 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 I think that was 4 for 5. Here's a little bit of brief constructive criticism, hopefully. I really like this optic, and because I like it, I wish that it had more internal elevation that you could use. It's advertised with 25 mils of internal elevation, but there is an internal limiter, so no matter if you have a 20 or 30 MOA rail, you are going to be limited. This 20 MOA rail that I have here on my Savage, I'm limited at around 17 mils of actual dialing, and then I have 10 mils of holdover. It's enough for lots of optics, but if you don't want to use the holdover or you're shooting ELR, it would just be really nice to be able to use more of that elevation, especially with rim fires. 22 in general needs a lot of elevation. So just to make it a more capable optic, either extend the reticle, because the glass is certainly good enough and I like it a lot. The light is fantastic. I think it's a very bright image. But it'd just be nice to extend the reticle a little bit, maybe offer a little more there because it's a really good usable reticle, and then possibly allow us to use that full range of offered internal travel. That would probably be better, and I think the glass can handle it, guys. That's just a little bit. All right, well, there you have it. It's the end of the night. I really enjoyed shooting my 308 tonight. I shot up all my ammo, everything I brought with me today. I'm probably lucky I didn't bring more ammo because I would have shot it all. I really enjoyed this. Who is this optic for? Well, what I did with it tonight was I practiced a lot of PRS. I have a PRS match coming up in June. If I do my part here, I think I'm going to do all right with this optic, definitely. And this rifle combination, I'm going to keep it old school and I'm going to shoot a 308. I do have other calibers, as you've seen on the channel, but I really want to try a 308 at this next PRS comp. It's a 600 and 800 yard comp, and so it's not crazy far. And I think I'll get away just fine with a 300, or a 308 rather. But this optic was really good for the PRS kind of thing for me. And it's as preference, I'm sure, but I love that reticle design. I really do. I think the glass is good enough that in future iterations of this optic, instead of doing 10 mils of holdover, I think they could do like 12 to maybe 15 mils of holdover, maybe 20. And I don't think you're going to see too much distortion or CA issues, and I don't think it's going to distort the reticle or be too blurry or anything like that. Clarity and contrast is really good in the optic. So I actually think they could go down further. And for us 308 guys, if you're going to be holding over, you're going to shoot maybe air guns or 22s really far, it's nice when you have a piece of glass that's good enough that you can truly hold over in that glass without getting too many distortions or issues. So again, PRS kind of thing, definitely. NRL 22, definitely. I think it's great for those types of matches. And right now I'm enjoying it on a center fire. The PRS practice went well for me today. Did a lot of tank trap work, and I thought it was phenomenal because that dot size, that's really what I'm going to come back to. I'm a little finicky because I like smaller dots sometimes for different reasons, and sometimes I like the bigger dots. And the reason I like this bigger dot is it's so fast for me to find with my eye, yet it didn't obscure the targets. So when I was shooting for 1 and 3 MOA targets at 600 yards, I was hitting them. And that's, for me, off a tank trap is really good. I am a beginner. I'm absolutely a beginner when it comes to these kind of things. And to be smoking 1 MOA targets, and sometimes the 3 MOA target, just on repeat, that made me very happy. But I would attribute it to, first of all, really good tracking. I can track right up to that center dot, and I wasn't using holdovers at that point. I was using the center dot. I wasn't using the holdover, I was using the center dot, and the tracking was true. And that center dot really stands out nicely. It contrasts nicely on the targets. It's big enough I could pick it up quickly. If I shoot another style reticle that has a smaller center dot, I usually find it, but it can get lost. That's the truth. If you have a target that's been getting just racked all day and people are just blowing it apart and it starts to get dark or gray or black, it's hard to see with those small center dots. But this one, it was good. Now I'm shooting, you know, kind of towards sundown right now anyways, and the illumination is very decent. It's more than I need, okay? More than I need for evening shooting. I recommend the Optic absolutely for PRS. And then the other application I'm gonna say is target shooting. I was just shooting targets here at 1,000 yards, seeing what kind of groups I could get, collecting some data, and 25 power with a 56mm objective, absolutely. You can do some long range target practice with this. Hunting, again, that reticle, big center dot, 5 power on the low end. It's got an absolutely phenomenal 5 power. It didn't fishbowl too much for me. I actually think they did really good on their low power settings. A lot of optics that struggle with that 5 times magnification, you know, they struggle on the low end, maybe on the high end. This one, I don't know, it's a really good deal, and they do such fantastic sales. If you keep your eyes peeled, these BLACKHOUND optics have such good sales. You are probably going to see more of these in the PRS world, the hunting world, NRL 22, all those kind of applications. So I'm just not sure what it's not good at. It's probably good at most things that I do. So keep your eyes peeled. There's some sales. You'll be seeing this on the channel and hopefully at a PRS match coming up pretty quick. And I'll have some feedback after that match as well. I'll drop a link down in the comments. If you have one of these, let me know what you think of your BLACKHOUND 5 to 25 Evolve.